sneak peekers, it's Valerie Trevino here at the world premiere at South by Southwest for Support the Girls. Check it out. You're well known for your comedic talent, but you absolutely kill it in your serious roles as well. How would you compare those to the nature of your character in this film?
Well, you know what? I feel like this has a mix of both. You know what? There's some. It's certainly not a broad comedy. You know what I mean? There are a lot of dramatic pieces, but there's a way that Andrew writes and directs where there's always some underlying humor, even in the darkest parts of life. And so I think that exists, but it's definitely it's not broad. It's a more, the world is so different.
And it does also include the issues on sexism and capitalism. What did you personally take from the film, and what do you hope audiences take from it?
Well, what I loved about the film was that, those things exist, but what also exists was that they really were a family. That within a world like that we usually, especially when we're on the outside of it, we judge it. And they're just people trying to make it the best they can, you know what I mean, every single day. And sometimes that's enough, and they have their own moral code, and maybe it may be different than other people, but it still exists. And I think that what I loved about Lisa is she always has an optimism about that. Like, what can she do to make it better? And obviously, not much, but that sense of hope and that sense of optimism is there.
And speaking of your character, she's a very strong, very giving woman. Who would you say is your favorite female empowerment female character?
Oh, character in a movie. There's so many. I mean, I love when I watch Meryl Streep in Kramer versus Kramer, just a woman who decided I wasn't happy and I don't want to be married anymore. And I love them all. I like Sigourney Weaver and her badass alien film. There's so many. I could go Susan Sarandon. There's so many roles where you see women able to inhabit so many components of life: strong, powerful, vulnerable. And I think that's what I respond to when I look at characters that are rounded, well-rounded.
That is absolutely wonderful. And now you have, much respect, by the way, a master's degree from journalism from NYU. What advice do you have for the future journalists at UT?
You know what? Keep doing what you're doing. Journalism is really important, despite what may have heard or has been implied. Our journalists are great, and as long as they keep their integrity, it makes, we have the possibility to always keep our country's integrity. So I love journalists.
Thank you so much. I have so much respect for you. You exude talent, beauty, and elegance. I thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you, and thank you. I love seeing ladies doing it. I love it.
Okay. You have played in many female-driven films. How is this film different, and what drew you to the project?
I'm a big fan of Andrew's work, Chess Club and Funny Ha Ha Ha. I just felt like this was the next part that was calling my name. It's a really wonderful film centered on a group of women, and just I think the fact that it brings together a group of girls kind of in the middle of nowhere working at a diner, and it bonds them. I mean, they're family. And to me, that's kind of how I look at my career with my sister. It's just really neat to have that female bond with someone. And there's just something that Regina brings to the film and the rest of the cast that has that. So this film drew me in as soon as I read it. I'm really happy to be a part of it.
And so I have to mention your sister. Speaking of, a few months ago you released your first album in 10 years, aptly named, by the way. How would you describe that transition from the set to the studio?
That's a great question. It was hard for Allie and I think getting our feet wet again. We hadn't released music in 10 years, and I just feel like we needed to find who we were as musicians as adults. We got signed so young, and we've been on set at such a young age and on tour at such a young age, and we just hadn't really established what we were going to be musically in our 20s, and we just needed that time to just breathe and sit back and really establish a sound and an idea of where we want our music to go. Not only our image, but our sound and our writing and the direction of, the blending of our voices and our instruments. And I really think we finally found that moment in the last 2 years, which is why we finally decided to release the music. It wasn't planned to wait 10 years, but it happened that way, and you kind of have to just go with it. And well worth the wait. Thank you. That's sweet. I'm really happy to have new music out.
So do you have any future projects in the works you can talk about? Maybe a Cowbells Part 2?
No Cowbells Part 2. However, my sister and I are going on tour in June, which I'm really excited about. Allie is still on iZombie. I'm on the Goldbergs. We just finished season 5, so those episodes are still airing. And I'm just happy to be working on a fun show that I love. I love the people. It's like family. And we're going to work on more music while we're on hiatus. So we're going to keep building the record, and I look forward to putting more out.
You are sort of the godfather of the mumblecore genre. How does this film compare to ones you've done in the past in terms of style?
It's different. They're all different. I mean, I think every time you go out to make something, you're reinventing the wheel. So it's hard for me to say because I live with them. So for me, it all makes sense to me, and there's great continuity in my mind, I guess, as my life's work. But as far as what people are going to see on the screen, you know, I think just about the only thing I can say about this movie with confidence is that it's probably not what people are expecting, whatever they're expecting. So we'll see.
And you've written every film that you've directed, every feature film. What was your inspiration behind creating this story?
Well, you know, I became fascinated by these places. I mean, they're everywhere all over America. These chains that are Hooters was the first one, and then you see a lot Twin Peaks and Tilted Kilt, and there's a whole bunch of them. And it just kind of stuck in my head. I thought, on the one hand, it seems like the simplest idea in the world, and on the other hand, the more time you spend with it, the more you realize how bizarre and uniquely American it is. So it was just kind of a thread that I kept picking at until I had a movie's worth of idea.
What made you want to film here in Austin?
Oh, I live in Austin, and I love it here. And you know, it made sense for the story certainly, but also it's nice to be able to see my kids at night sometimes.
That's perfect. Now, I have a lot of respect for directors. I absolutely love what you do. What advice do you have for the future filmmakers at UT?
I'm always amazed that anybody still wants to do it, but yeah, okay. Are you at UT now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm in RTF major, actually.
Yeah, great. Well, I've adjuncted there a few times, and no, I'm always so impressed when I meet the kids in the classes, the adults, the young adults, that you do still have that passion. And so, you know, it's boring advice, but follow the passion. You know, keep chasing after the thing that made you want to do it in the first place, and don't worry too much about making a living or a business or any of that. You know, you have the rest of your life to worry about that. But if you can keep the spark in your head, then that's a good thing.